The night shift at the medical clinic on Threshold 7 was always quiet. Dr. Ji-woo sat at her desk, finishing reports on her old computer. The small facility had only 6 beds, basic equipment, and walls that needed painting. But it was home, and it served the miners and colonists who lived on this rocky frontier planet. Ji-woo heard the warning sound from the emergency beacon system. Her head lifted quickly. Someone was in trouble. She grabbed her medical bag and ran to the small vehicle outside. The medical droid, a simple machine named MED-7, followed behind her with its mechanical legs clicking on the floor. The coordinates led her to the Eastern Canyon, about 20 minutes away. As Ji-woo drove through the dark landscape, she wondered what kind of accident had happened. Mining incidents were common, but the beacon signal seemed different, stronger, more urgent. When she arrived at the location, Ji-woo saw something she never expected. A spacecraft had crashed into the canyon wall. The ship was not human. Its design was strange, with sharp angles and dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Smoke rose from the broken hull, and sparks flew from damaged systems inside. Ji-woo approached carefully. The ship could explode at any moment, but her medical training pushed her forward. If someone was inside, they needed help immediately. She climbed through the torn opening in the hull, using her flashlight to see through the smoke. Inside the cockpit, she found him, an alien warrior, massive and terrifying, even while dying. He was nearly 3 meters tall, with 6 powerful limbs and scales that covered his entire body. The scales were a deep crimson color, but they were fading to gray. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and thick, not like human blood at all. Ji-woo had seen pictures of the Dravathi before. Everyone in the frontier colonies knew about them. They were warriors, proud and fierce. They never asked for help. They never showed weakness, and they definitely never trusted humans. But this one was dying. Large pieces of metal shrapnel pierced his body in multiple places. His breathing was shallow and painful. The radiation detector on Ji-woo's belt started beeping. The ship's power core was leaking dangerous levels of radiation. She had minutes, not hours. The warrior's eyes opened slightly. They glowed with a faint amber light. He saw Ji-woo and tried to speak. The words came out in his own language, harsh and clicking. But the meaning was clear in his tone. He was telling her to leave, to let him die with dignity. Ji-woo ignored him completely. She pulled out her medical scanner and ran it over his body. The device struggled to read alien biology, but it gave her enough information. 3 vital organs were damaged. He had lost massive amounts of blood. His body temperature was dropping fast. By every measure, he should already be dead. "Not today," Ji-woo said firmly. She did not care if he understood her words or not. "You don't die here, not while I can do something about it." She injected him with a universal pain medication that worked on most species. Then she started the hard work. The shrapnel had to come out, but removing it might cause more bleeding. She needed to stabilize him first. But she could not do that with metal pieces inside his body. It was an impossible situation. Ji-woo made a choice. She would trust her instincts and her training. She had studied alien biology in medical school, even though most doctors thought it was a waste of time. Now that knowledge might save a life. She called Med-7 to help. Together, they carefully lifted the warrior and carried him to her vehicle. He was incredibly heavy, and his scales were rough against her arms. The ship groaned behind them. Ji-woo knew it would explode soon. She drove away as fast as she could, and seconds later, a bright flash lit up the canyon behind her. The explosion shook the ground, but they were already far enough away. Back at the clinic, Ji-woo prepared the main surgical bay. She had never performed surgery on a Dravathi before. Nobody she knew had. But organs were organs. Blood vessels needed to carry oxygen. Hearts needed to pump. The basics were the same. She worked through the entire night. Her hands moved with careful precision, removing shrapnel piece by piece. The warrior's blood was strange, thicker than human blood, and it clotted differently. She had to adjust her techniques constantly. When traditional tools did not work, she improvised. She used a welding tool from the maintenance shop to cauterize vessels that were too large for her medical equipment. The Dravathi had 3 hearts, she discovered. 2 were damaged. She repaired what she could, using synthetic patches designed for humans, but adapted with quick modifications. It was not perfect, but it would keep him alive. As dawn light came through the clinic windows, Ji-woo removed the last piece of shrapnel. It had been lodged near his primary heart, the largest of the 3. One wrong move would have killed him instantly. She held the bloody metal piece in her hand and allowed herself one moment of relief. The warrior's scales began to show color again. Not bright crimson yet, but no longer the gray of death. His breathing became stronger and more regular. The bioluminescent markings on his body, which had been completely dark, started to glow faintly with a soft blue light. Ji-woo cleaned her instruments and washed her hands. She was exhausted, covered in strange alien blood, and her back hurt from standing for 8 hours straight. But she felt satisfied. Another life saved. That was all that mattered. Me-D7 beeped a question at her. Should it report the alien patient to the authorities? Colony law required reporting any alien presence, especially military aliens like the Dravathi. Later, Ji-woo said. Let him stabilize first. A few hours won't matter. She sat down in the chair next to the surgical bed and watched her patient. His chest rose and fell steadily. The monitoring equipment showed vital signs that were strange but stable. She had done everything she could. Now his own body had to do the rest. Ji-woo thought about what would happen next. The authorities would ask questions. The Dravathi might send ships looking for their missing warrior. There could be diplomatic problems or even military tensions. She might lose her medical license for performing unauthorized alien surgery. But looking at the living, breathing warrior in front of her, Ji-woo knew she would make the same choice again. She was a doctor. She saved lives. It did not matter if those lives were human or alien, friend or stranger. When someone was dying and she had the skills to help, she would help. That was the promise she made when she became a doctor. The warrior's eyes moved behind his closed eyelids. Perhaps he was dreaming. Ji-woo wondered what Dravathi warriors dreamed about. Battles and honor, probably. Their culture valued strength and victory above all else. She stood up and stretched her sore muscles. There were other patients to check on. The clinic did not stop running just because she had spent all night saving an alien warrior. Life continued, and people still needed care. As she walked to the door, Ji-woo looked back one more time. The warrior's bioluminescent markings pulsed gently, creating soft patterns of light on his scales. It was strangely beautiful. "Welcome to the living," she said quietly. "Try to stay that way." Then she left to begin another day of work, not knowing that her simple act of compassion would change everything for both humans and Dravathi alike. 3 days passed before the warrior woke up. Ji-woo was checking his vital signs when his eyes suddenly opened. The amber glow was bright and sharp now, full of awareness. He looked at her, then at the medical equipment surrounding him, then at his own body covered in bandages and synthetic patches. His reaction was immediate. He tried to sit up, growling with anger. The movement pulled at his stitches, and he gasped in pain. Ji-woo pushed him back down firmly, which surprised him. Most beings would be afraid to touch a Dravathi warrior, but she treated him like any other difficult patient. "Stay down," she said in a calm but firm voice. "You'll tear your repairs. I didn't spend 8 hours putting you back together just to watch you break yourself again." The warrior spoke in his language. The words were harsh, angry. Ji-woo did not need a translator to understand the emotion behind them. He was furious. She pulled up a chair and sat down next to his bed. "I know you're upset, but you're alive. That's what matters." The warrior tried speaking again, and this time his translator implant kicked in. The device had been damaged in the crash but was now working again, turning his words into human language. You should not have interfered. I am Rax of Clan Redscale. I should have died with honor in that ship. Well, Rax of Clan Redscale, I'm Dr. Ji-Woo, and I don't let people die when I can save them. That's my job. She pulled up his medical scans on the tablet. See these? You had 3 major organs failing. Your primary heart had shrapnel 1 millimeter from the main vessel. You had radiation poisoning. You lost half your blood volume. You had 0 chance of survival without help. Rax looked at the scans. His expression was hard to read, but something changed in his eyes. Why would a human save a Dravathi warrior? Our peoples are not allies. We are not even friends. Ji-Woo shrugged. Because you were dying, and I could help. I don't need more reason than that. You do not understand, Rax said, and now his voice carried something new, not anger, but distress. You have created a debt I cannot repay. In my culture, accepting such aid creates shame. A warrior who cannot save himself has no honor. Then your culture has some problems, Ji-Woo said bluntly. She stood up and adjusted his IV line. Everyone needs help sometimes. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you lucky that someone was nearby. Rax was silent for a long moment. His bioluminescent markings flickered with colors Ji-Woo could not interpret. Finally, he spoke more quietly. You risked much to save me. This equipment is not designed for my species. You could have made mistakes. You could have killed me by trying to help. I studied alien biology, Ji-Woo explained. Most doctors think it's useless, but I found it fascinating. I never thought I'd actually use it, though. You're my first Dravathi patient. She smiled slightly. Congratulations, you're helping me learn. Despite himself, Rax seemed almost amused by this. I am a learning experience? The best kind. The kind where everyone survives. Ji-Woo checked his temperature reading. Still elevated, but better than yesterday. Now, you need to rest. Your body is healing, but it needs time. No arguing, no trying to leave. Just rest. Over the next few days, Rax remained in the clinic. He watched Ji-Woo work with other patients. He saw her treat a miner who had burns from a chemical spill, working patiently to clean and bandage the damaged skin. He watched her set a broken arm for a young boy, distracting the child with stories while she worked. He observed her staying late to sit with an elderly woman who was lonely and scared. With every patient, Ji-Woo showed the same careful attention. She never rushed. She never treated anyone as less important. A child's broken arm received the same focus as his own life-threatening injuries. This confused Rax deeply. In Dravathi culture, everything had a hierarchy. Warriors were more important than civilians. The strong mattered more than the weak. Resources went to those who could fight. But Ji-Woo seemed to believe that all lives had equal value. One afternoon, a human security officer came to the clinic. He was a stern man named Williams, and he wanted to question Rax about his military mission. Dravathi warships had been spotted near human territory, and the colonial government wanted answers. Ji-Woo met the officer at the door of Rax's room. He's not ready for questions yet. Doctor, this is a security matter, Williams said. We need to know what he was doing in our space. And you'll get your answers when my patient is healed enough to give them, Ji-Woo replied. She crossed her arms. Right now, he's under my care. Patient confidentiality applies to everyone, including alien warriors. You can come back in a week. Williams was not happy, but he knew the law. Medical authority was absolute in cases of patient care. He left, but not before warning Ji-Woo that there would be consequences for harboring an alien military operative. Rax had heard the entire conversation through the open door. When Ji-Woo came back into the room, he looked at her with new understanding. You defended me against your own people. Why? Because you're my patient, Jiwoo said simply. That means something. It means you're under my protection until you're well enough to leave. But I am your enemy, Rax said. Or at least, not your friend. You're a living being who was hurt, and now you're healing, Jiwoo corrected him. That's all that matters to me. The politics and military stuff can wait until you're better. That night, Rax thought about everything he had seen. He had been a warrior his entire life. He had fought in 37 battles. He had killed enemies and watched friends die. He had lived by a code of honor that valued strength above all else. But Jiwoo's actions did not fit into that code. She had shown strength by saving him, yes, but she had also shown something his culture had no word for. She had helped him expecting nothing in return. She had valued his life simply because it was a life, not because he was strong or important or useful. The next morning, Rax asked Jiwoo a question. In your culture, what do you call someone who saves lives without seeking reward or honor? Jiwoo thought about it while she changed his bandages. A doctor, I guess. Or a good person. Why? Because my people have no such word, Rax admitted. Everything we do is measured in honor and debt. But you measure things differently. You saved me not for honor, but because... He struggled to find the right words. Because you could not bear not to? Jiwoo nodded slowly. That's actually a good way to put it. When I see someone suffering and I have the ability to help, doing nothing would be worse than any difficulty involved in helping. It would hurt me to walk away. This is a strange form of strength, Rax said. But perhaps it is real strength nonetheless. Perhaps, Jiwoo agreed. She finished with his bandages and checked his healing progress. The synthetic patches were integrating well with his tissue. His scales were returning to their natural crimson color. In another week, he would be fully recovered. Rax watched her work with careful attention. He was beginning to understand that he had not just been saved by a human doctor. He had encountered something rare in the galaxy. True compassion, offered without conditions or expectations. It was a gift he had never received before, and he did not know how to respond to it. But he knew one thing with certainty. He would never forget it. And somehow, he would find a way to honor it properly. Not because his culture demanded it, but because Jiwoo had shown him a better way to measure worth and strength. The question was how to convince his clan that a human doctor deserved their deepest respect. By the end of the first week, Rax was moving around the clinic. His healing was remarkable, faster than Jiwoo expected. Dravathi biology was impressive. What would take a human months to recover from took Rax only days. But he was restless. Warriors were not meant to lie in beds, so he began to help around the clinic in small ways. He moved heavy supply boxes that would have required 3 humans to lift. He used his superior height to reach high storage areas. His eyes could see in spectrums humans could not, which helped him spot problems with electrical systems before they became dangerous. Jiwoo accepted his help without comment. She understood that he needed to feel useful. For a warrior culture, being helpless was probably torture. If helping around the clinic gave him dignity, she would allow it. One morning, Rax asked her about the concept of debt. In my culture, when someone saves your life, you owe them Velcora. It is a life debt so deep that it cannot be repaid in one lifetime. It binds your entire bloodline to serve the one who saved you. Jiwoo was cleaning medical instruments while he spoke. That sounds complicated. It is the highest honor, Rax explained, and the heaviest burden. You saved my life, Jiwoo. By our laws, I owe you Velcora. My clan owes you Velcora. I don't want a debt, Jiwoo said firmly. She put down the instrument she was cleaning and looked at him directly. I didn't save you to own you or control you. I saved you because it was the right thing to do. You don't owe me anything. This statement seemed to confuse Rax even more than before. But there must be balance. Every action has a price. Every gift requires return. How can there be no debt? Because I don't measure things that way, Jiwoo explained patiently. If I help someone and expect something back, that's not really helping. That's trading. I help people because it's who I am, not because I want something from them. Rax sat down carefully on one of the reinforced chairs. His bioluminescent markings pulsed with deep blue colors, which Jiwoo had learned meant he was thinking hard about something. Your way of seeing the world is very strange to me, but I am beginning to understand why humans are so dangerous. Dangerous? Jiwoo raised an eyebrow. Because we help people? Because you do not think like other species, Rax said. You do not follow the normal rules. You create new rules. This makes you unpredictable. And in war, unpredictability is the most dangerous weapon. I'm not interested in being a weapon, Jiwoo said. I just want to heal people. That may be the most dangerous thing of all, Rax replied quietly. That afternoon, the emergency alarm sounded. There had been a collapse at Mine 7, one of the largest mining operations on Threshold 7. The call came through that 17 miners were trapped underground. The human emergency response team was already moving, but they needed medical support. Jiwoo grabbed her emergency kit and ran for her vehicle. Rax followed without asking permission. When she looked at him in surprise, he simply said, "You will need help. I can provide it." "You're still recovering," Jiwoo protested. "I am Dravathi. I am strong enough." His tone left no room for argument. They arrived at the mine to find chaos. The entrance had collapsed, and rescuers were trying to dig through tons of rock and metal. The mine supervisor was coordinating efforts, but he looked overwhelmed. When he saw Jiwoo arrive with a massive Dravathi warrior, his eyes went wide with shock. "He's with me," Jiwoo said quickly. "He can help. Dravathi can see thermal signatures through solid rock. He can locate the miners." The supervisor hesitated only a moment before nodding. They needed every advantage they could get. Rax approached the collapsed entrance and placed his hands on the rock. He closed his eyes and concentrated. His bioluminescent markings began to glow brightly, pulsing in patterns that seemed to respond to what he was sensing. After a minute, he opened his eyes. There are 14 life signs 20 meters in, below the main tunnel level. 3 more life signs are 30 meters deeper, separated from the others. All are alive, but some are weak. The rescue team used Rax's information to direct their digging efforts. Instead of clearing the entire collapse, they could tunnel directly to where the miners were trapped. It would save hours of work. Jiwoo set up a medical station near the entrance. As rescuers brought out the first miners, she went to work immediately. One had a crushed leg, another had breathing problems from dust inhalation, a third had severe cuts and was losing blood. Rax worked alongside the rescue teams, using his strength to move debris that machines could not reach. His 6 limbs allowed him to brace himself in positions humans could not manage, holding up dangerous sections of rock while rescuers pulled out survivors. Hours passed. The sun set, and work lights illuminated the disaster site. Jiwoo moved from patient to patient, stabilizing injuries, keeping people alive until they could be transported to larger medical facilities. Her hands worked automatically, guided by years of training and experience. The 13th miner came out with a piece of metal pipe pierced through his shoulder. Jiwoo worked quickly to remove it and seal the wound. As she worked, another section of the mine began to collapse. "Clear out!" someone shouted. "Secondary collapse!" Rax saw the danger before anyone else. Rock and metal were falling directly toward where Jiwoo was working on her patient. She was focused on stopping the bleeding and had not noticed. He moved with the speed that made Dravathi warriors legendary. In 3 powerful strides, he reached Jiwoo and wrapped 4 of his arms around her and her patient, shielding them with his own body. Debris rained down on his back and shoulders. His scales protected him from most of it, but Jiwoo heard him grunt in pain as something heavy struck him. When the dust settled, Rax slowly unwrapped his arms. Jiwoo and her patient were untouched, but Rax's back was bleeding from multiple impacts. Some of his carefully healing wounds had reopened. "You idiot," Jiwoo said, but her voice was gentle. "You were just starting to heal." "You were in danger," Rax replied simply. That was unacceptable. They rescued 14 of the 17 miners. 3 had died before the rescue teams could reach them. It was a tragedy, but without Rax's thermal vision, more would have been lost. The rescue would have taken much longer, and more of the trapped miners would have suffocated. Back at the clinic that night, Jiwoo cleaned and re-bandaged Rax's injuries. She worked in silence for a while before speaking. "You didn't have to do that. You could have been seriously hurt." "You saved my life," Rax said. "I will not stand by and watch you die when I can prevent it. Not for honor or debt, but because I cannot bear not to." He used her own words from days before. Jiwoo paused in her work and looked up at him. Something passed between them in that moment. Understanding, respect. The recognition that despite coming from completely different worlds and cultures, they shared something fundamental. They both valued life. They both acted to protect it regardless of cost to themselves. "You understand now," Jiwoo said softly, "why I saved you?" "Yes," Rax agreed. "And you are beginning to understand why my people must honor you properly. Not because of duty or law, but because you have shown us something we forgot long ago. That true strength is not in taking life, but in preserving it." That night, after Jiwoo had gone to sleep in her quarters, Rax sat alone in the clinic. He activated his communication device and sent a coded message into space. It was a military channel, one that would reach his clan directly. The message was simple. "I live. Come to Threshold 7. Bring the elders. We have much to discuss about honor, strength, and a human who has changed everything." He closed the communication channel and looked around the simple clinic. This small building, with its basic equipment and paint-peeled walls, had become the center of something important. Something that would ripple out across the galaxy in ways no one could yet predict. All because one human doctor had refused to let a warrior die alone in a crashed ship. 10 days after Rax sent his message, 3 Dravathi warships appeared in orbit around Threshold 7. The arrival was sudden and without warning. Colonial defense systems went to maximum alert. Sirens wailed across settlements. People looked up at the sky with fear. Dravathi warships were massive and intimidating. Each one was twice the size of the largest human vessel. Their hulls were dark like Rax's crashed fighter, seeming to drink in light rather than reflect it. Weapons systems were clearly visible along their sides. These were ships built for war, and they carried enough firepower to level the entire colony. The colonial governor immediately contacted the military garrison. Emergency protocols activated. Soldiers rushed to defensive positions. Civilians were told to stay indoors. Everyone assumed this was the beginning of an attack, possibly the start of a war between humans and Dravathi. At the medical clinic, Jiwoo received an urgent call from Colonial Command. "Dr. Jiwoo, we need you to evacuate immediately. Hostile alien forces are in orbit. We're initiating emergency protocols." "Hostile?" Jiwoo looked at Rax, who stood calmly by the window, watching the sky. "Are you sure about that?" 3 Dravathi warships just appeared without authorization, the voice on the comm said. "What else would they be?" Rax turned to Jiwoo. "They are not here to attack. They are here because I called them. My clan is coming to meet you." Jiwoo felt her stomach sink. "You called 3 warships here? To a human colony? Do you understand how bad that looks?" "I called my clan," Rax corrected. "The warships are simply how they travel. They mean no harm to your people. Try explaining that to the humans pointing weapons at them. Ji-woo muttered. She grabbed her coat. We need to go to Colonial Command right now and sort this out before someone does something stupid. But before they could leave the clinic, a landing craft descended from orbit. It was smaller than the warships, but still impressive, with the same dark hull and aggressive design. It landed in the open area near the Colonial Administration Building. 20 Dravathi warriors emerged. They were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Each warrior was as large as Rax, covered in scales that ranged from deep crimson to dark purple. They wore armor that seemed to be made from the same material as their ships. Weapons hung from their belts, though none were drawn. Their bioluminescent markings glowed with various colors, creating a display of living light. The human military garrison formed a defensive line, weapons ready. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. One wrong move from either side could start a battle. Leading the Dravathi warriors was an even larger figure. His scales were darker than Rax's, almost black, with crimson edges. His armor was more elaborate, marked with symbols that clearly indicated high rank. When he spoke, his voice carried authority that made even the human soldiers stand a bit straighter. I am Kyle, chieftain of Clan Redscale. I come in peace to honor a debt. I seek Dr. Ji-woo, the human who saved my brother's life. The colonial governor, a nervous woman named Rodriguez, stepped forward. Her voice shook slightly, but she kept her composure. I am Governor Rodriguez. Dr. Ji-woo is one of our citizens. What business do you have with her? That is between my clan and the doctor, Kyle replied. But I assure you, we mean her no harm. Quite the opposite. At that moment, Ji-woo pushed through the crowd of soldiers and civilians who had gathered. Rax walked beside her. When the Dravathi warriors saw Rax, they all made a gesture with their hands, touching their chest in what was clearly a salute or sign of respect. Kale's eyes fixed on Ji-woo. For a long moment, he simply looked at her, studying this small human who had done the impossible. Then, slowly, deliberately, he knelt down on the ground. All 6 of his limbs touched the earth in a position of complete submission. The other 19 Dravathi warriors did the same. 20 massive alien warriors, each one capable of incredible violence, all kneeling before a single human doctor. The humans watching gasped in shock. Even Governor Rodriguez looked stunned. In all the years of contact with the Dravathi, no one had ever seen them kneel to anyone outside their own species. Kyle spoke in a voice that carried to everyone present. Dr. Ji-woo, you saved my brother when death was certain. You gave him life when you had no obligation to do so. You asked nothing in return. You risked your own safety and career to help a stranger from a species not your own. He paused, and his bioluminescent markings pulsed with colors Ji-woo could not interpret. By the ancient laws of our people, you have earned Velcora, the eternal loyalty of Clan Redscale. From this day forward, we are bound to you. Our strength is yours. Our honor is yours. Our lives are yours to command. Ji-woo felt overwhelmed. Hundreds of eyes watched her, both human and Dravathi. She had never wanted this. She had just done her job, saved a life. Now she stood at the center of something much larger than herself. Please stand up, she said quietly. All of you. This is embarrassing. Kyle rose to his feet, and the other warriors followed. You are embarrassed by honor? I'm embarrassed because I don't deserve this, Ji-woo said honestly. I didn't save Rax for loyalty or honor or any kind of reward. I saved him because he was dying and I could help. That's what doctors do. That is precisely why you deserve this honor, Kale replied. Among our people, power is taken. Honor is claimed through battle. But you gave life expecting nothing. You showed strength through compassion rather than violence. This is rare beyond measure. Governor Rodriguez stepped forward cautiously. Dr. Ji-woo, perhaps we should discuss this inside the administration building, away from the crowd? Ji-woo nodded gratefully. The governor led them inside, along with Kale, Rax, and 3 other Dravathi elders. The human military commander, General Park, also joined them. Once the doors closed, the real conversation began. "With all due respect," General Park said to Kale, "you cannot simply declare loyalty to a civilian. There are diplomatic protocols, treaties. This creates enormous political complications." "We do not answer to human politics," Kale said flatly. "Velcora is our most sacred law. It transcends governments and treaties." "But Dr. Jiwoo is a human citizen," Governor Rodriguez argued. "She lives under human law. You're asking her to accept command of alien warriors. That's not something we can just allow." Jiwoo had been quiet, but now she spoke up. "Can everyone stop talking about me like I'm not here?" She looked at Kale directly. "I appreciate the gesture. Really, I do. But I can't accept this. I'm a doctor, not a military commander. I don't want warriors loyal to me. I don't want that kind of power or responsibility." Kale's expression was difficult to read, but Jiwoo thought she saw disappointment. "To refuse Velcora is a grave insult. It would shame my entire clan. It could even be seen as an act of hostility." "So I have to accept or risk starting a war?" Jiwoo felt anger rising. "That's not a choice. That's coercion." Rax stepped forward. "Brother, perhaps we have approached this incorrectly. Jiwoo saved me not with weapons but with healing. She values life above honor. Maybe our loyalty should take a different form." Kale looked at his younger brother with surprise. "What do you suggest?" "Give her time," Rax said. "Let her think about what she would ask of warriors who are truly loyal. Perhaps she will find a way to use our strength that aligns with her values." Jiwoo looked at Rax with gratitude. He understood her dilemma and was trying to help. She turned back to Kyle. "Can you give me 1 day? 1 day to think about this and figure out something that works for everyone?" Kale was silent for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "1 day. But understand, Dr. Jiwoo, Velcora cannot be refused forever. My clan's honor demands that we serve you somehow. The only question is how." The meeting ended with tension still thick in the air. As the Dravathi left the building, Jiwoo collapsed into a chair, exhausted by the weight of decisions she never asked to make. Governor Rodriguez sat down beside her. "Are you okay?" "No," Jiwoo admitted. "I saved 1 life, and now I have 20 alien warriors who want to serve me, 3 warships in orbit, and the fate of diplomatic relations resting on my shoulders. How is any of this okay?" But even as she spoke, an idea began to form in her mind. A way to honor the Dravathi without betraying her own values. It was crazy, unprecedented, and might not work at all. But it was the only path she could see that satisfied everyone. Jiwoo spent the night thinking. She walked through the quiet colony streets, looking at the stars where 3 Dravathi warships waited in orbit. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders. 20 warriors wanted to serve her. A whole clan had sworn loyalty, and she had 1 day to figure out what to do about it. By morning, she had an idea. It was strange and probably impossible, but it felt right. She called Kyle and requested a meeting at the clinic. When he arrived with Rax and several elders, Jiwoo was ready. She stood in the middle of her small medical facility, surrounded by basic equipment and walls that needed painting. "I've thought about your offer of Velcora," Jiwoo began. "I understand it's important to your culture. I understand refusing would insult you, so I won't refuse. But I need to explain something first." Kale nodded, listening carefully. "I don't believe in violence as a solution to problems," Jiwoo continued. "I've spent my entire life saving lives, not taking them. If your clan is truly loyal to me, then I have to ask something that might seem strange to warriors. I ask that you help me save lives instead of ending them." The Dravathi looked at each other with confusion. One of the elders, A female warrior named Sarah spoke up. "We are warriors. We fight. That is our purpose and our skill. How can we save lives when we are trained to take them?" "Because strength can be used for more than fighting," Jiwoo replied. She gestured around the clinic. "This facility is too small. The equipment is outdated. I can barely handle the medical needs of this colony, let alone the entire frontier region. But with your clan's help, we could build something better. A real hospital. A place that could serve both humans and other species." Kale was quiet for a long moment. His bioluminescent markings flickered with colors that Jiwoo was learning to read. Purple for confusion, blue for deep thought, and finally, orange for interest. "You want us to build?" he asked. "And more than that," Jiwoo said. She looked directly at Rax. "I want some of you to learn medicine, to become healers. Your species is strong and resilient. You could work in dangerous situations that would kill human medics. You could reach places we cannot. You could save lives that would otherwise be lost." The suggestion was met with shocked silence. A Dravathi warrior becoming a healer? It was unthinkable. Their entire culture was built around combat and honor through battle. But Rax stepped forward. "I will be the first." Kale turned to his brother in surprise. "Rax, you are one of our finest warriors. You have fought in 37 battles. You would give that up to become a healer?" "I have seen more death than I can count," Rax replied. "I have taken lives in the name of honor. But in the past 2 weeks with Jiwoo, I have learned something new. There is honor in preserving life, not just in taking it. There is strength in healing. Not just in fighting. If our clan truly serves Jiwoo, then we must serve her values, not just offer our weapons." Sarah, the elder, spoke thoughtfully. "What you suggest is revolutionary. It would change the very nature of what it means to be Dravathi. Other clans would mock us. They would say we have become soft." "Let them mock," Kyle said suddenly. His voice was firm, decided. "Perhaps it is time for our people to learn a new kind of strength. Perhaps the human doctor has shown us something we needed to see." He turned to Jiwoo. "Very well. Clan Redscale will help you build your hospital, and those who wish to learn medicine may do so. We will honor Velcora in the way you choose." Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened on Threshold 7. The Dravathi warriors set to work with the same dedication they brought to battle. They cleared land for the new hospital complex. Their strength allowed them to move materials that would have required heavy machinery. They worked day and night, tireless and focused. Human construction crews worked alongside them, initially nervous, but gradually becoming comfortable. The Dravathi followed Jiwoo's plans exactly, asking questions when they did not understand, learning construction techniques with the same intensity they had once learned combat tactics. Rax began his medical training. Jiwoo taught him personally, starting with basic anatomy and working up to complex procedures. His warrior discipline served him well. He memorized information quickly and never complained about the difficulty. Other Dravathi warriors watched him, and slowly, 3 more volunteers joined the training program. The human colonial government was initially resistant to the whole arrangement. Governor Rodriguez worried about diplomatic incidents. General Park was concerned about having armed Dravathi so close to human population centers. But as weeks passed and no problems arose, the resistance faded. The turning point came when a plague outbreak hit a mining colony 3 weeks' travel away. The disease spread fast, overwhelming the local medical staff. They sent out desperate calls for help. Jiwoo immediately organized a response team. She packed medical supplies and prepared to leave, but Rax stopped her. "Let me go," he said. "I have been training for this. The journey is long and dangerous, but Dravathi ships are faster than human vessels. I can get there in 1 week instead of 3. And I can work in contaminated environments that might harm you." Jiwoo hesitated. Rax was still a student, not a fully trained doctor. But he was right about the time and the danger. Every day of delay meant more deaths. Take Sarah and 2 other warriors, Jiwoo decided. I'll come on a human ship as backup, but you'll arrive first. Here's what you need to do. She spent 6 hours briefing him on the plague, its symptoms, treatment protocols, and emergency procedures. Rax and his team left that night on a fast Dravathi ship. They arrived at the infected colony in 7 days. By the time Jiwoo's slower human ship arrived 4 days later, Rax had already set up quarantine protocols, begun treating the sick, and had the outbreak under control. Jiwoo walked through the medical camp Rax had established and felt pride swell in her chest. The Dravathi warrior moved between patients with gentle care, adjusting IV lines, checking vital signs, offering comfort to the frightened. His massive form should have been intimidating, but somehow he had learned to be gentle despite his size and strength. You did well, Jiwoo told him that evening. You saved a lot of lives here. I had a good teacher, Rax replied. His bioluminescent markings glowed with warm gold colors. And I finally understand what you tried to tell me weeks ago. This feeling of saving a life is worth more than any victory in battle. Every person who walks out of here healthy is a triumph greater than any I achieved as a warrior. News of the successful plague response spread quickly. Both human and Dravathi heard the story of the warrior-turned-healer who had saved an entire colony. Other Dravathi clans began to take notice. Some mocked Clan Redscale for abandoning their warrior ways, but others were curious. A few even sent representatives to observe what was happening on Threshold 7. 6 months after Rax's crash, the new hospital opened. It was impressive, modern, and equipped to handle both human and alien patients. The staff included human doctors, Dravathi healers in training, and specialists from several other species who had heard about the unique facility. At the opening ceremony, Kale stood beside Jiwoo as human and Dravathi officials gave speeches. You have changed my clan, he told her quietly. Many other clans think we have lost our way. But I believe we have found a better path. Do you regret it? Jiwoo asked. Swearing Velcora to me? Never, Kale said firmly. You showed us that true strength is not in how many enemies you can defeat, but in how many lives you can protect. That is a lesson worth more than any military victory. Rax approached them, wearing the medical uniform Jiwoo had designed for Dravathi physiology. He had just completed his certification as a combat medic, qualified to work in the most dangerous emergency situations. 4 other Dravathi had also completed their training, with 6 more in the program. Dr. Jiwoo, Rax said formally, the hospital is ready. We have our first patients arriving within the hour. Jiwoo smiled. Then let's get to work. As she walked into the new hospital with Rax beside her, Jiwoo reflected on how much had changed. She had saved 1 life out of simple compassion, never expecting anything in return. That single act had transformed an entire clan of warriors into healers. It had created a bridge between species that had barely spoken before. It had shown the galaxy that different cultures could learn from each other and become something better together. The hospital filled with patients over the following days. Human and alien, rich and poor, all received the same careful treatment. Dravathi healers worked alongside human doctors seamlessly. Their combined skills saved lives that neither could have saved alone. Late one night, Jiwoo found Rax sitting alone in the break room. He was reading a medical text on trauma surgery, his bioluminescent markings providing light enough to read by. You should rest, Jiwoo said. You've been working for 18 hours straight. I am reading about a procedure that could save lives, Rax replied. Rest can wait. Jiwoo sat down beside him with a cup of coffee. For a while, they sat in comfortable silence, 2 beings from completely different worlds who had found common purpose. Do you ever miss being a warrior? Ji-woo asked. Rax considered the question carefully. I miss the simplicity of it sometimes. Warrior life had clear rules and clear purposes. But this work is more important. Every patient who recovers is proof that strength can build instead of destroy. That is a legacy worth leaving. Your clan did a good thing, Ji-woo said, accepting what I asked of them. It couldn't have been easy. Velcora is about serving with our whole hearts, Rax replied. We could have given you our weapons and our warriors, but you asked for something harder and more valuable. You asked us to change who we are. That is the deepest form of loyalty. Ji-woo thought about those words long after Rax went back to his reading. She had never wanted loyalty or power. She had just wanted to help people. But somehow, by staying true to that simple purpose, she had sparked a change that was spreading through the galaxy. Other Dravathi clans were starting to reconsider their values. Some sent young warriors to train at the hospital. Human doctors who heard about the work came from across human space to participate. The frontier planet that had once been just another struggling colony was becoming a center for medical innovation and interspecies cooperation. All because one doctor had refused to let someone die, regardless of species or politics or cultural differences. All because she had believed that every life had value and had been willing to prove it through action rather than words. The story would be told for generations in both human and Dravathi space. The human medic who turned warriors into healers. The Dravathi clan that learned a new kind of strength. It became a symbol of what could happen when different species truly worked together, when compassion bridged divides that politics never could. And in that hospital on Threshold 7, Ji-woo continued her work as she always had, treating each patient with the same care she had given a dying warrior in a crashed ship. Because that was who she was, and no amount of honor or fame would ever change that fundamental truth.